in here too. Okay. And this public hearing is now called to order at 6 PM on Wednesday, March 23rd of 2022. And you know, I should have this memorized by now. This public hearing is required by Chapter 131, Section 40, General Laws of the Commonwealth and Act relative to the protection of the wetlands. Persons wishing to be heard will be called in the following order. And this is being broadcast live or recorded for later. So you'll be able to watch us as many times as you want on replay. Okay. And notice is hereby given that the Acushnet Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, March 23rd. Parting Ways building located at 130 Main Street. So first order of business, and just for the record, I'm Bob Rocher, the chairman, and other people here. You can see the sign, Everett Fella, Ryan Resendes, Heidi Pelletier, Rick Pimentel, commission members, and an agent, Pat Hannon. And no audience members today. So the first thing, minutes for approval. We don't have any meeting minutes to vote on, so we'll go on to the next thing, meeting mail. It's like we don't have any unless something...
So there's only been a little bit of mail, and I actually decided to start printing out some of the emails to come in so that you're aware of what's going on and include them in the meeting. So I guess we could call that mail. But I've woven them into the package for tonight so we can talk about them as we get there.
Okay.
But we do have email. We have mail from Rutweld. I believe we have mail from CVE and from Keating.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so old business, we had on the agenda PJ Keating Company, but I believe at the recommendation of town council, we are going to save that for a...
So there was an email exchange between myself and Luke Legier, counsel for Keating. And he sent an email yesterday, day before yesterday, saying that the email's in here actually. Why don't we?
So you have the original letter from
Yeah.
a few days ago and then the follow-up.
Yeah, it's the first one in the stack there. And basically, their offer didn't match up with the June that we were looking for. So I sent him back a response telling him that we'd put it on the agenda for tonight for a discussion about whether or not we were going to amend the order of conditions. And he had an issue with amending the order of conditions. And then I got a town council saying that there would be a prohibition on amending the order of conditions unless it's something minor or something procedural. And I felt that not putting a date in to move the pile from the buffer zone was kind of a minor omission and procedural. But he felt it would be better to not go that way. And that, in fact, we're going to go ahead and issue an enforcement order. And town council is going to work with me on the enforcement order. And then we're going to ask you folks to ratify that at our April 13th meeting, schedule that as a public hearing, have PJ Keating come in. That's what they advised today. So I'm taking that advice.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Pat about that?
So the enforcement order, because we agreed upon that the work would be done by June, right? Isn't that what this is what we discussed at the council on
Yeah, we didn't agree on it.
We just talked about it.
suggested
Yeah, we proposed
And
that.
we asked them to turn in a discussion
Yeah,
from council, so they did.
okay. But this timeline I have here in this letter clearly is not
And-
match what we said.
Right, it's the
Yeah.
end of August.
Yeah.
So. You want a chair? I'll get you a chair.
Right here.
Yeah, if you don't mind grabbing that.
So, can we discuss this email right now? Or is it at the advice of town council we don't?
It wouldn't be fair to discuss it right now. You guys can take this home and read it
Okay.
and have it, because we took it off the agenda as an item for discussion. And Luke Legier wanted to be here tonight as attorney for Keating in case the commission had any questions, so it wouldn't be fair to Keating's counsel to go ahead and discuss this after we said we weren't going to.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So new business, long-term maintenance plans.
and I guess I got interrupted to go out to the stormwater violation when I was gonna write, for the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
Okay, so they are north, okay.
Yeah.
So
And-
take us through that then.
And the next document in the pile is an email from Sarah Quintal from Buzzards Bay about the sawmill and her long-term maintenance plan. And then her long-term maintenance plan is right after that. It's a one-pager with a map. I think I told you at the last meeting, I was really impressed
Yeah, we do a good job.
with both Sarah and the sawmill project. She absolutely knows what she's doing. So she contacted me today and wanted to know if she needed to come to the meeting. I told her we'd discuss this tonight, and if you didn't want to approve this tonight without hearing from her, that she could come to the April 13th meeting. And she could answer any questions you have, but this is a pretty straightforward, well-thought-out plan. And one important part is in the constructed wetland, there are some invasive willows that need to be removed sooner than later. And she operates all on volunteers and has a pretty tight schedule for her volunteers. So,
I read this all over in the emails that you sent, and I think it's a pretty good plan myself.
it is.
It's concise, it's to the point.
Yep.
Yes. And it's no different than the long-term maintenance plans that we get from, and approve from Eversource and everybody else. And this prevents her from having to come back every time she wants to do something.
Right.
Yeah. I also trust Sarah's work and preparation.
Very thorough.
I'm very familiar with all the properties, not just in Acushnet, but also for Haven, Wareham as well, and they do a really good job on all their properties, so I don't have any issues.
Yeah, same here.
It's actually nice to have this color habitat map too.
I tried to make it a full-size plan, but I couldn't get access. We have a new printer now that we can, it's in the basement in a secret room locked up. The only few people can use. And then I couldn't get it to print today, but we are able to blow up full-size plans now and do all those things, so. It's a $10,000 printer.
Wow.
Probably fine.
In the basement of this building,
Yes, it's in the basement of
It's
this
not
building. We don't have to walk around it.
I know, right?
good place for electronics.
I was just gonna say, the basement of this building, that's one of the reasons that the police department.
Well, not the basement, on the first floor.
Oh, okay.
That's the basement to me.
So do you want a motion from us to accept this plan?
Yeah,
I'll make that motion.
A second?
Any further discussion?
No?
No.
Okay, so for the record, we've made a motion to, and seconded to accept the long-term maintenance plan as presented by the Buzzards Bay Coalition for what they're calling ARR, North Acushnet River Reserve. So, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay. Discussion agenda. First item, policy on buffer zone.
I actually have it. It's in your next document. And basically, all this does is establish a policy, not a regulation, on a 25-foot no-touch. You're free to give waivers, free to make exceptions, whatever you want to do, but it would be nice to get in the habit of, having that, at least that 25
Yeah.
feet, based on what we've seen lately.
That they can actually see and read, yep.
Yeah, I read through this. I didn't see any
Yeah.
language that I wanted to change. And having
This
this. done-
was mine from Uxbridge. I changed everything from Uxbridge to Acushnet.
But, having this in writing and on the website cuts down on so-called surprises.
And put the consultants on notice that
Mhm.
we need to stop building up against the wetlands and doing replications at the back door of a house and all of those things, so. It'll be a struggle, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So,
So you guys would have to vote to adopt that policy.
so I'll make a motion that, I'll accept a motion that we adopt the wetlands setback policy as presented to us tonight.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for getting that to us, Pat. And then who's in charge of getting this onto the town's website, onto our page?
I am.
You are?
Yeah,
So you have
that'll get
access to
handled by Lisa Leonard over in the
Okay, but, yeah,
office.
so you.
I'll
send
take
it
care
over.
of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just want to make sure that it's up there sooner than later and doesn't get, fall through the cracks. Discussion on constructed wetlands.
Yep, so I'm not ready to go forward with that. I thought I was going to be, but I got stuck on Knives Lane and a couple of others, and I'm seeing a lot of information that constructed wetlands may not be viable for infiltration where there are poor soil conditions. And I'm thinking of the infiltration reason for CVE because they have poor soil conditions. So we're actually doing a wet weather test tomorrow at Wing Lane. They're required to do a live wet test in the rain. Tomorrow's gonna be a good rainstorm, so Beals and Thomas will be there. I'll be there at 10 o'clock. And I'm gonna talk to their wetland scientist about constructed wetlands and infiltration and see what he has to say. But it is one of the drawbacks on the EPA's website for constructed wetlands. It's not so much of an infiltration BMP, it's more of filtration for suspended solids and other particulate. So I need to look into that a little more.
Okay. And then the next item is discussion on conservation fees.
So, because Joanne was gonna be out, she sent over some connections to some of the other drives on the town's computer system. And I found that the last time the commission reviewed their filing fees was 2012. I don't know if there's been anything any more recent than that you remember. But most commissions charge for excessive site visits, and they charge for research for COCs. I did see that we used to have some of those fees, and they fell off the wagon somewhere. So if you want to, I would put together a schedule of fees based on some of our old information, and then look and see what's kind of the norm around us.
Didn't something similar go around recently? Fee structure of.
That
That was for
That
stormwater.
was for stormwater.
Just stormwater, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and please.
Because we'd never charged any fees for stormwater even since 2007.
Yeah, definitely move forward with that.
Yeah.
Anybody have any objections to that idea? Okay. All right, on to stormwater. So first thing is stormwater bylaw revisions, SATM, review matters presented.
So I did print you out a copy of the bylaw.
Yeah.
It's 27 pages, and I didn't want to kill a bunch of trees to just hand them out. I did send it out electronically, and you guys could, I'll send it to you again, Ryan, if you didn't.
No,
get it.
I think I got it.
Yeah.
I think I
We
did
got
get
it,
it.
yeah.
And you guys can take the time to flip through it. But the thing about the bylaw is this is language that's required by EPA. This is nothing that we get to mess with. The regulation is the commission's, but the bylaw is language that EPA requires and standards that EPA requires. So I've got to call into the town clerk to find out if we need to have a public hearing to vote a recommendation for town meeting for the bylaw. I don't have that answer yet.
Okay.
So we may have to schedule a meeting that won't be a regular meeting, kind of a hurry-up thing to meet the 2 weeks before town meeting. It'd be a 15-minute thing. We could do it by Zoom if we had to, but we may have to do that. So
That's just to put it on the agenda at town meeting?
to make a recommendation whether the
recommendation.
Conservation Commission votes favorable action
Okay.
or unfavorable action. And then it goes to the bylaw review committee. They'll have a hearing on it. Then it goes to the selectmen will have a hearing on it. And then it goes to town meeting.
Okay. Is it Hilton? Chris Hilton, yes?
Hopkins.
Hopkins. I know
You
his
got the
age.
H right.
I apologize for that, please.
I just, what would be going to town meeting? I mean, what change in the bylaw or what?
We don't, we don't have,
It was,
it's an old.
it was square footage of disturbed area and then a couple.
Not the bylaw, that's the regulation.
What
There's
would,
this-
what would town meeting be voting on? I
The
guess?
town meeting will be voting on adopting a new stormwater bylaw that EPA requires for our MS4 permit for the town of Acushnet.
And what would the new stormwater, would it just be adhering to the EPA or?
Yeah, meeting EPA's requirements for MS4.
Okay.
And then there's a regulation that the town develops, and the town and the Conservation Commission will adopt. That will be a local regulation for stormwater. We currently have one. It's on the town website,
Okay,
and the town bylaw is currently on the website for MS4.
okay.
And as soon as this gets through the process of being voted by the different boards, that will go on the website. And that'll be available, and the public will be able to comment. It'll be published in the newspaper for the public hearing, either 7 or 14 days before the public hearing.
The public hearing at town meeting?
There'll be a public hearing here
Okay,
by this commission to discuss the bylaw and the regulation, and vote to vote favorable action on adopting the bylaw. And they would be voting on whether or not to adopt the regulation. Now, the regulation does not go to town meeting. The regulation will be posted in the newspaper. It'll be a public hearing here with the commission. And then 7 days later, it's a regulation. That's that.
But the only
That'll
thing
be available
changed,
after all the committees comment
Yeah.
on it.
Yep, we'll let you know when it's available.
Okay. When is town meeting?
May 9th.
May 9th, yeah.
I can't hear out of my radio.
May 9th.
29th.
Thank you.
Yep.
What's the tree bank?
So, I'm I'm a conservation agent, but I'm not an activist. I guess is the best way to put this. And I felt that the only part of the stormwater regulation, to me, that needed to be noodled by the commission and by the people that live in the town of Acushnet is whether or not you want to adopt this language on trees, on tree preservation. We're entering into planning board's gonna have a 6-month moratorium on solar fields because we're concerned about tree cutting. The selectmen wanted to tighten things up on solar fields because they're worried about tree cutting. And everyone's concerned that the nature and character of the town is gonna get on the tube, cutting 70 acres of trees at a time. So this is a boilerplate tree bylaw that EPA offers to communities. And this is all being done by an outside engineer who does MS4 and stormwater work for 11 communities here in Massachusetts. So, and we're not going to vote on this tonight. This is something everybody needs to look at. We have to have a public hearing, and I'm sure some of the consultants that work in town are going to have some opinions on this and want to have some input. Changes can be made to the regulation by the commission. If there's anything that you think you want to discuss and change. The requirement in the regulation of a stormwater permit is being increased from 5,000 square feet to 40,000 square
Yeah.
feet for general construction. But for high-intensity uses, commercial parking lots, junkyards, industrial sites, things like that, it remains at 5,000 square feet because those are intense uses, and EPA requires the 5,000 foot. So, so I did print out the trees so everybody could just kind of pick that out at your leisure.
how long is the permit good for? Is it annual?
No, it's a perpetual permit. It's to do the work.
No, I'm saying the stormwater permit itself. Like,
Our stormwater with
yeah,
EPA,
but say, Repwell, how often does their stormwater permit have to?
just one timer,
One time.
one and done.
Okay.
Now, they have to be in compliance with the conditions of the permit. They have to
Right.
do the maintenance for the stormwater controls. And that's the heavy lift in this stormwater regulation, is EPA requires that whoever develops and constructs a stormwater system has to provide 20 years' worth of maintenance funding. So take something like, CBE, Wing Lane. Their maintenance came out to $64,000 for the 20 years. So they have to put up a performance bond or cash with the town for $64,000. And Mark Francois, I think, was $37,000. So this is not an inexpensive thing. And the peer review of their stormwater plans is running around $5,000. And the engineering to do the stormwater plan is running around $25,000. But it's an intense thing. I mean, it's a lot of work to do all these calculations. And it's almost as much work to peer review it, to go through and fact check it. So, the fella at Nice Lane is looking at maybe a $25,000 lift to get a stormwater permit. So, there's nothing we can do about that. But we have to do it, or we're going to get penalties from EPA. And there are exemptions allowed, but there's a protocol to get an exemption, and they have to have a very good reason and demonstrate what their options are. And then you folks get to decide whether or not they get that. So. Now, the planning board did vote already on a revised stormwater regulation that had the tree preservation section in it. But I don't believe they even read it. I think they just passed it because they felt that EPA wanted it passed. But it didn't get advertised in the newspaper, so it never became in effect. So the 2007 regulation remains in effect right now. And then,
All right, so to clarify, so in terms of bylaw, because this is something that has to be passed at town meeting, we may still need to do something, we'll need to have probably, well, you're waiting for legal guidance as to whether or not we have to make
have a
vote,
public hearing.
Public hearing.
And make a recommendation.
And a vote, to make a recommendation to send it to
Yes.
town meeting.
Yes, and you would have to take comment from the public on whether or not they want you to make a recommendation, favorable or
Right.
unfavorable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that has to happen soon, because,
Yes, and whether you
Might
make
not be
favorable or
quickly.
unfavorable doesn't mean it's not going to town meeting. It's still going to town meeting.
right,
Just when they read the article, they'll say there was unfavorable action
Yeah.
voted by the Conservation Commission.
yeah.
Or whoever.
And that comes up before any time any
Everything.
article is read.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
A quick
it just
question.
happens.
If it goes with a negative recommendation, does it change the amount of votes it needs to pass? Like sometimes it's you need like 2/3 if it's a
No,
negative recommendation.
that doesn't change
No.
at all.
Okay.
And this is a simple majority. It's just a standard bylaw.
Oh, no, I understand.
Yeah.
But sometimes if it's a negative recommendation, they require a supermajority.
In this, no, in this case,
Not in this one.
it doesn't make any difference.
And if town meeting is not in favor of it, that means we're out of compliance, the town?
Yes. And then the town who votes against it as taxpayers will pay the penalty in their taxes.
So there's your argument right there.
Yeah. But there's not a lot in the bylaw. The bylaw basically says that you're going to establish a stormwater board, you're going to form regulations, you're going to do inspections, you're going to issue permits, and you're going to file an annual report,
Right.
and you're going to do what we tell you.
Yeah.
And that's, the meat is in the regulation.
Yeah, no, I was just getting that on
Yeah.
public record that, if,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that if we didn't vote in favor of it, that would be
yeah. It wouldn't be good.
a consequence, I guess.
Yes.
As of now, we're not in compliance.
Well, we are in compliance unless we don't submit our annual report on time.
Okay, okay.
Oh, I see.
I guess the other clarifying point I'll make is, much like bylaw has to get approved by town meeting, regulations don't, they can get approved here, even though we will have a public hearing on those things. It's similar to what the nonprofits, if you're gonna have a bylaw change, you've gotta advertise it whatever amount of time, and you have to vote on it at an annual meeting, similar to a town meeting, but procedures and policies can get changed at a regular meeting of the board.
Correct.
This is a similar track for those who are familiar with working with nonprofits. Okay, so thanks for pulling out the tree stuff. We'll have a look at that at home. So any other stormwater, whether it's bylaws or regulations. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next topic.
Okay, yep.
Okay. So next we have Rep. Weld, 734 Main Street, review of matters presented.
So I included an email from Dave DeVignan, who represents Rep. Weld. And I reported at our last meeting that the owner of Rep. Weld felt that he was grandfathered from all of the requirements. But there seems to have been a change because his engineer is requesting to be on the agenda and says they expect to be able to submit plans and information the first week of April.
Okay.
So I was going to send a certified letter to Rep. Weld, telling them to come to our meeting. And you know, just give us the scoop on what's going on, because this has been going on for a long time, and I'm getting pressure from the licensing side that they need to be in compliance, ASAP. And then I got this. So there was no sense in sending the certified letter.
Sure.
So I wrote back and said, we'll put them on the agenda for April 13th. That's our first meeting in April, and I don't think we need another site visit
No.
unless you want to.
No.
Okay. Anything else then regarding Rep. Weld? Next, over to Deep Brook Estates off Park Drive.
So the owner of Deep Brook Estates stopped in and asked if he was all set to go. I looked into it. He doesn't have a stormwater permit. I've left him 3 messages that he needs a stormwater permit. I've had not heard another word. So I was going to send him a certified letter, just so he can't say I didn't call him back. There's been a lot of instances of engineers not returning phone calls and then telling their clients that we haven't gotten back to them. And some of the stormwater stuff's been really dragged out by SW Cole for over a year. Deep Brook Estates was an SW Cole project, and Nye Lane, Zero Nye Lane for solar field, has been a big issue. That stormwater just got resolved, but the owner submitted a very unrealistic maintenance cost of like $2,900 or something for 20 years. So I rejected it, and he came back at $32,000, which is a little more realistic. I'm waiting to hear back from Beals and Thomas on the $32,000. And I see his engineer sending the owner of Zero Nye Lane email saying, you need to respond to the town on the bond. You need to respond to the town on the bond. So we'll see when that shows up, but that's not going to be able to move forward until that's in.
Yeah. And also just clarify, the current owner of Park Drive was not the original owner. So it's no longer Casca, correct? It is now
Correct. It's this
Costello.
Costello Realty,
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Costello.
Right.
Yes.
So no longer John Casca.
And I get the impression that Mr. Costello knows his way around when it comes to developing, and he knows what he needs to do, and I think that's why he stopped in. So I hope you hear from him.
So did they already file with us? Do they have like a, no,
Nothing for
Nothing.
stormwater.
no, conservation?
It went through conservation. Yep. But there's a lot of issues up there with very high groundwater, very poor soils.
I don't know how it passed the perk test. It's pretty wet back there.
I know, and you'll see that in the new stormwater, in the updated stormwater regulation, there's a perk test for basins now. There's a drainage test, so that we don't have what happened at CVE
Yeah.
happen again.
Yeah, and because I know you'll remember walking around out there, they had cleared out, do you remember, Heidi?
Yeah, yeah,
There were some roads, there was some cul-de-sacs and all that. Some there were any house lots, but, and still all unpaved. But, yeah, it's wet, the bottom of a hill, and
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's one,
it's gonna be a challenge to get.
that's part of our actually biggest aquifer in town, is that whole system, right down that whole area there. There's a very, very big high yield aquifer. So, one thing I forgot on the regulation. Currently, we don't allow low impact design credits on stormwater, which is ridiculous, because there's a big push for low impact design for construction. So the low impact design is accepted in the new regulation. That was something that
Okay.
we did change. And this will benefit people right now. The sooner we can pass the regulation to get away from that 5,000 feet, get the low impact design approved, and that it'll affect people that are just starting the stormwater permitting process now. So,
All right, anything else on Deep Brook Estates then? Any other questions, clarification needed? Okay. Next, on to CVE North America, 88 Wing Lane.
and I already told you, tomorrow's the wet test at CVE. They do have infiltration problems. They're not going to, currently, they won't be able to meet the stormwater standards. And after the wet test, we're gonna go through a whole bunch of science, and let the dueling scientists figure out
Right.
just what they're gonna do and how they're gonna handle it.
And you said Beals and Thomas will be there.
Beals and Thomas is, yeah. The manager, town administrator met with me today, just on the update side of it. And he was going to have planning put out an RFP to have a single engineer for the whole town to do peer review and engineering work and plans. And I told him I really didn't think that was a good idea, because you wind up with the lowest bidder, not necessarily the most responsible. And that, quite frankly, Beals and Thomas is doing a really good job for the town. I'm really impressed with the level of detail that they get into, and the fact that they can turn them around as quick as they can.
Good, yeah.
And I just think that if we get involved with an engineering company that's doing work for the DPW and everybody else, we're gonna just wind up in the queue, like SW Cole for the planning board, where it takes a year to turn a document around.
Related to CVE, you mentioned 6-month moratorium on solar farms fields. When does that start?
That's gonna be a town meeting,
Okay.
I believe it's a town meeting
Going to be
thing.
proposed at town
Yeah,
meeting, okay.
and that wouldn't become effective until the Attorney General approves the town meeting as being constitutional, and then 60 days after the clerk posts it on the website.
All right.
So quite a while.
Quite a while.
But the tree regulation may calm their fears on that, and maybe they won't do it.
Is that being brought forward by the selectmen or the building
The moratorium, I believe, is being brought forward by the planning board.
planning board?
And then I have one more thing on stormwater that came up today. So I met with the town planner and the town administrator on funding from the American Rescue Plan Act from ARPA. And he went to a training class on ARPA, the administrator, on how the money can be spent. And we have $2,913,000 coming. We have available right now $1,600,000, and the money can be used by the DPW for infrastructure, for water, sewer, roads, things like that. And we can use ARPA money for stormwater. So he asked if I had a wish list on any, stormwater projects or things like that. And we really don't have anything other than, for the MS4 permit, I recently had to do an inspection at the DPW yard. And the DPW yard needs some attention. It needs some upgrading. Looks like the 1975 drop-off for recycling. So we're going to get $75,000 from the town administrator to make some stormwater improvements at the DPW yard.
Yeah.
And that'll include probably a truck washing setup.
Right.
And some better drainage for the recycling drop-off, and covered containers for the drop-off that don't leak, and just bring the thing up to date, and looking like we want other people to make their things look like in town. And if we can lead by example, it would be better. So
Good.
he had no
Yeah,
problem
that's
with giving us $75,000 for that.
That's
So
nice, yeah. It's a tiny percentage of 2.113 plus the 1.6 we already had.
Well, I think part of the plan is
2913.
to do a lot of work on Slocum Street.
Yeah.
And Slocum Street could, quite frankly, could use the whole $3 million when it came to water, sewer, utilities, and granite curbs and sidewalks. And it's not a lot of money. The interesting thing was, $1.6 million comes to us directly. The other part goes through the Bristol County.
Mm-hmm.
They get the money first, and they keep 10% for administrative fees.
Of course they do.
So,
Move ahead.
It's all print, they just keep printing it. And it
Yeah.
just don't matter. Right?
I just find that amusing.
But not surprising.
No, it's good usage, I guess.
Yeah.
Town yard,
Yeah, I like
they need to
that.
just adjust their hours,
Yeah.
because they're not open very much, but,
No, they're not.
No?
no.
No.
What, oh, just the Friday, Saturday thing, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
8:30.
Only till like, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to know about CV or any other solar farms in town while we're on the topic? Is everything else like on hold right now?
Yeah, some of them have started going through MIPA, and I was surprised that these others didn't go through MIPA before they came to all these boards and commissions, because they're disturbing more than an acre of land, so they're required to go through MIPA. Now, MIPA's taking comments and all these things, but all these other fields are already built. So 540 Rear Main just popped up on the MIPA calendar. I get the MIPA emails, and it kind of caught my attention that they're the only ones in town out of, I don't know, God knows how many, that are actually going through the whole process. So we've been really dysfunctional, I think, because we got so many of them at the same time and nobody really knew what to do. So I think we have it figured out now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's it for for that part of the agenda. Next is agent updates.
So, the updates are, the budget seems to be going along. There haven't been any objections to what we want to do.
Good.
Oh, good.
That all seems to have quieted down, and wait and see. Spoke to Joanne, she's feeling
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
was gonna ask.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
should be back soon.
Yeah. How about a tech person to run things? I know the last one had left.
It's gotten better. So Nick from accounting is the tech person,
Okay.
so many hours a week. And he's very responsive.
Okay.
You call him, and he's here at 4:01. When he gets done work for accounting, he goes around and does everything. And if he can, he'll run over and fix something
Right.
if it's an emergency. He was surprised how old some of our printers are and thinks that we need new printers, so that's in the queue.
Okay.
I tried to move the printer scanner from Joanne's desk to mine while she's out, but it's a 2007 Windows printer. And yeah, it could go with your Tandy 1000 computer.
Right.
So we're lacking in the technology department, but we're getting there.
Well, glad you're advocating for it. Anybody else with business before the commission?
No.
For me.
Nope.
No, I'm good.
I think we'll have ourselves a full agenda on the 13th of April.
Yeah.
Yep. It would be good if we could vote. If we could plan on voting on the having the public hearing and voting on the regulation, the stormwater regulation,
Okay.
because that would help a lot of people out in town to get rid of that 5,000 square feet, and also add the low impact design.
And we can vote on the regulations before the bylaw goes on the town meeting warrant?
You can. Yep.
Okay.
The regulation would be in effect anyways. It would just be tagged to the original bylaw.
The original.
The only change really in the bylaw that I picked out is they went from 80% TSS capture to 90. It's getting tighter and tighter.
Right.
So that was all I really was able to pick out.
Okay. In that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 6:40 PM.
Thank you.